Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. We continue on with our derivation, what is sensorality? Stability is predictable, right? Last time we finished up with sensorality is establishment, trying to stabilize sensorality, literally linguistically. Sensorality predicts. Range is not out there, and so now we have to reconceptualize, again, but not really. And if you said, what's the range of a radio frequency? You're kind of thinking, physically distant going away, but it's not out there, right? Like this is another thing that I noticed specifically personally with my voice, which really just comes from both the logic that I speak, like I just say things that are immediately true, but people can't accept. That's where you guys get ontological shock. But then the actual, except what I say, the logic of it, and then the meaning of it, and then the actual vocal quality of my voice. But range is right. My voice will probably sound loud to people, but then when I try to quote unquote, I told you the story about going to my cousin's wedding, the background volume, the decibels are really loud. So you have to try to raise your voice, but it doesn't feel it feels like it's within, the range of my voice is within, but it's very simple to see with harmonics. Again, range, your vocal range isn't you singing louder per se, right? It's more of the intricacy, the stability within, sustaining a note, holding a note, but it's not singing louder. So range is not distance. It's not out there. Range is comprehensivity, right? If your range of skills is more, right, you're doing more things, but it's not, again, the intuition is not to physically out there somewhere. And so range is not out there. Range is not distance. Range is versatile. Range is versatility. Resonance is range. Literally physically, the range of my vocal quality is not speaking louder. And I'm sure you can physically hear that. Again, some of the times when I'm recording these episodes, my microphone will actually sit up against my vocal cords. It'll be physically touching. Again, you can't really touch, but you get what I'm saying. It'll be making contact with my skin. And you can hear buzzes, when I'm editing, I can you can hear it buzzing through the speakers at a very high frequency, but it's resonance. Range is resonance, literally. And so that's another thing that happens again all of the time in person. I told you the story about me renting a U-Haul when I was moving from one of these different places, and the guy was like, I thought the voice was coming from up there. I was in a car dealership asking for directions because I had gotten lost with the U-Haul truck. And the guy was walking behind a guy, and the vocal quality can just strikes people because it's very resonant. That truly just comes from me training my vocal cords to sing. But range conceptually is not physically out distant somewhere. Consonance separates vibration. And that's again every word I'm speaking right now when you don't really hear that derivation tone to me. I'm just breaking, right? We have a set number of sounds we can make. The ones that vibrate are vowels, and we break those vowels with consonants. Structure is stature. Structure is indestructible. When we're talking about this irreducibility, right? Structure is irreducible. Structure is indestructible, right? Then you see how, again, it's that natural definition of indestructible. Literally you can't break down the word structure anymore. That's why it's the base of indestructible. So you have all of these, again, these immediate demonstrations of the consistency of language at these end of these proofs. But if I were to go out into the world and tell that to somebody, they were not going to see, parts 253 or of 252 up until this part. But it contains all of this logic. Stature is position, right? That context, someone has a big stature, you're kind of talking about their reputation. Essentiality is the opposite of speciality, right? Especially this, essentially this. Speciality is speciality, sensorality is essentiality. Last episode, we logically renormalized. So essentially and especially, those are our complete word forms of sensorality and speciality out in the wild. Special, sensual. Speciality is sensuality. Opposition is difference. Normalizing stabilizes. Sensorality renormalizes. Renormalize enormous. Feeling different is not special. Sensorality is fealty. Sensorality is fiality. What is order to chronology? Disorder is not chronological. And this is kind of, again, an interesting progression because, again, I'm showing you it's hard to... Here's a good point to talk about, again, the differences of mathematical... I don't even like the word accomplishment, and I don't even like the intuition of levels. But the different levels gives you a good enough intuition. And so I'm showing you the order of derivation incompleteness from an axiom, sensorality. And so, and again, that's fundamental stability of two, sensorality. And we're showing that pairing of those two syllables into the differentiations that already exist today. And so from disorder is not chronological, the natural progression intuitively is you take away the prefix, but then you get the statement, order is not logical. And that probably strikes people as, whoa, of course order or logic is ordered. But again, we're showing this progression, and we had to introduce all of this logic to get to where we can derive these things, these extremely simple statements that are extremely poignant, right? We're deriving the relationship of order and logic. Because right after order is not logical, then you just remove the negating prefix. But again, everything is chronological, right? Things happen. I wake up and I brush my teeth. I go to the bathroom. I eat food. And then or a good example is accounting, right? You go out with a night and you spend a bunch of money. You're a wealthy person. You're spending, right? All of that stuff happened in order, but you don't remember that order, so to speak. And so, you have to go through accounting. So what did I spend here? What did I spend here? What did I spend here? The order existed in which those events occurred, but you have to go, the logic is kind of re-putting things in order, I guess. The order is already there, but like a logical deduction, this analysis is showing the order of this iteration of letters, of sound, of words, and what they mean. And so order is not logical, and then you just immediately remove the not, but order is logical, showing you that chronology exists, that produces order, and logic is derivative from order. And so when I'm sitting here and say doing logical deduction, or that makes sense, right, you're putting pieces in order is what you're really doing. So we have that order is not logical, then order is logical. And so we have, in conclusion for today, or for right now at least, information is generated. Right? You can't memorize something that isn't known. And I'm talking at the entirety of the species, or of an information set. You can't learn something you can't memorize something that isn't known. And learning is information generation, right? Literally physically increasing resonance, aligning your brain, the molecules in your brain, right? Information isn't mass and energy, and we went through all of that. But you can't memorize what isn't known. Information is generated. And that's kind of intuitively obvious to anybody. If you get out of derivation mode, right? You don't need to learn all of history to contribute to the world. You don't need to, that's the most readily available example. It's just that everything that you've learned, again, all of those light bulb moments, you didn't need to go read a book to have them, right? You might have read a sentence and something clicked, but you're just aligning the order of logic of these different events into a sequence, whether it's biology, chemistry, physics, business, economics, medicine, any discipline you want to talk about. You're just aligning these intuitions that you kind of already have. You get exposed to them through school, but logic is pretty much understanding or articulating the chronology that existed. And so that is what I have for you for today on derivation. Again, my rights continue to be violated. I have an inordinate amount of property with a tremendous amount of financial value sitting on the internet right here on this channel. But my constitutional rights continue to be violated. It is profound and extensive stress. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.